I like to teach through stories, so today we're going to do that. The man I mentioned in a previous video who was reportedly having agitation, I did an assessment and confirmed he was having pain, had been reportedly having agitation between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning each night. I would have assessed for pain at that point. He's going to bed between 8 and 9. He's not getting any medication after that. His last meds are between that 8 and 9 window. Not moving, he'd be stiff, sore, uncomfortable. That's probably what's waking him up rather than waking up because he's agitated. But I wasn't involved. This is what was reported, and they received orders to give oral haloperidol for extreme agitation. The first night they had the oral haloperidol at home, he received 3 doses and was completely snowed the next day. He could not form words, could not be fully roused, and also could not take his pills. So by the night that we got involved, he was going to withdrawal, having nausea, vomiting, and agitation. We gave the haloperidol to treat the nausea and vomiting to try and keep the haloperidol down because his palliative nurse that was most familiar with him reported she thought he was experiencing withdrawal. We noticed he was quite agitated afterwards and assumed that might be the withdrawal because, again, we're having a hard time keeping the hydromorphone down. He had missed those doses through the day, etc. It continued though. So each time we gave him a dose of haloperidol to try to treat what then became agitation afterwards, he got more agitated. And we then obtained an order for 1 sub-Q dose at night to try and treat the overnight agitation, at which point he developed significant muscle stiffness. So he'd been on the haloperidol, I think that would have been the 3rd day going into it, because there was the first night we weren't involved, the second night then we did give a couple doses, and the 3rd night he had that injection before bed, as well as another care provider gave him a dose of oral through the night. He was very, very stiff, difficult to turn, couldn't be changed properly, and couldn't swallow anymore. I was called out to assess what was going on, and when I got there, everything was tense and squeezed up. He had his toes and his feet pointing towards his chin in the recliner, could no longer swallow, couldn't coordinate his tongue, so couldn't take his oral medications anymore. I worked with the palliative nurse that was covering that day to reach out to the palliative care doctor. We got an order to discontinue the haloperidol based on what appeared to be haloperidol side effects, being paradoxic effects. Opposite, he was becoming agitated with the doses, as well as extrapyramidal side effects with the muscle stiffness and the worm tongue. We discontinued that. We received an order to initiate sub-Q midazolam if he did have any agitation, and I requested an order for sub-Q hydromorphone because we could no longer give him the oral hydromorphone. Once we gave him the hydromorphone though, and he was able to get it without worries about keeping it down after that whole withdrawal cascade started, he was comfortable. There was no more nausea, no vomiting, and no agitation at all. It took about 24 hours for the worm tongue and muscle stiffness to subside before he was able to drink a little bit again and have some puree. Unfortunately though, he died a couple hours later and had sort of a sudden abrupt passing, didn't go through the typical trajectory, and that means that his previous 3 days were spent with being snowed, being agitated, nausea, vomiting, withdrawal, muscle stiffness, not what we want to see for somebody in their final days because of a side effect of a medication that he probably didn't even need. And that's why this is important. That's why I'm sharing the education that I'm hoping helps somebody out there. If there's any questions for me, feel free to drop them below. And if there's anything you'd like me to cover, feel free to let me know and I'll do my best.